Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and this is actually a great time to start with our guest yawning. That's always the greatest start to any stream. Anyway, I am currently with Kudwy from the NeoAustrians, and I believe he also owns the classic liberal hype house on TikTok. Am I wrong?
Well, it's the same thing essentially. We just never really changed the name on YouTube. It's still Classical Liberal Hype House on YouTube, but it's Neo-Austrians across any other social media. So
Okay. So on YouTube, it's classic liberal hype house.
yes,
Everywhere else is okay. Okay, fair enough. Well, right now, we're gonna give a few minutes for people to start viewing. Actually, you know what? Speaking of people, I should
yeah. Why
view it
that?
on my.
Yeah. Go ahead and put me backstage so I can do the thing.
All right. All right. Well, Kudwy is going to get his people to come on the stream. If you're watching this in the future, you should skip pretty much the first 5 minutes. Let me double check. Oh, one second. Yeah, go ahead. Good, good. I'm busy right now. No, I'm busy for 1 hour. Okay. And normally, like I said, we do our live streams Sundays at 9 p.m. But today we made an exception because I wanted my good friend Kudwy to come here. In fact, who knows? By the end of this whole, I don't want to call it a debate, but by the end of this whole discussion, maybe I'll even join these guys. Not sure. I doubt it. But we shall see, you know. Crazier things have always happened. Where's my phone, actually? Let me see. Not sure. I doubt it. Alright, perfect. Now, you guys should be aware that most of the questions he was prepared for, but there were some that let's just say he wasn't so prepared for. Could be.
Okay. Yeah, we're back. Okay, great.
You good?
Yep. I did it.
Called your friend. Okay, good. Yeah, no, we were supposed to do this a few days ago, but some stuff went wrong. Let's just say somebody needed their candy.
Yeah, ration pills.
Oh yes.
Am I frozen?
No,
Okay.
no, you're good.
Okay, now you're good. You were frozen.
Yeah, no, there was a slight disconnect, but I have I'm viewing it on my phone just in case something goes wrong. Let me see.
Gotcha.
Okay, I hear you properly. Everyone else is hearing properly. Okay. Okay, perfect. So first of all, this whole idea of objectivism is a philosophical idea, but it's also a political idea.
Politics is a branch of philosophy. It's not a philosophical and political thing. It's just philosophy in general.
See, this okay. Already, this is funny because I see it as the opposite. I see philosophy is part of politics, but you say politics is a branch of philosophy.
Well, what is politics? It has to derive from philosophy. Politics is a study of how man should interact with one another. So like how would we come to those like answers of like how should we know how to interact with one another if we didn't have like philosophical, and that would also go in like morals or whatnot. So
well, yeah, but to me, politics is just how we're ruled, quote unquote. And yeah, some of the ways we learn how to rule people is philosophy, religion, even economics. Like, what rules should we do for the economics of the country, the social rules of the country, even the foreign policy rules. That's what politics is. Obviously, if you remove economics, religion, society, social rules, and all that, politics is nothing.
I mean, I did describe this in a video I posted yesterday on the NeoAustrian on the TikTok account. I explained the differences between philosophy and economics. I think a lot of people are saying that the economic status of the U.S. right now is kind of terrible, so that therefore that justifies or warrants their like leftist or collectivist ideology or so on and so forth. But I mean, economics is the study of outcomes from how men interact with one another. The Misesian definition from the book Human Action, he sums up economics in 2 words: is that men act, because the formal definition of economics is the allocation of resources, but that is a derivative from men acting. If you want to go to the source, it's men acting.
Yeah, and the first time you told me about just the idea of men acting, I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. That's pretty much what economics is. It's just a bunch of small little, small trade between everybody, and then all those trades multiplied. That's the whole economy.
Yes.
But I think it's kind of a collectivist view of economics to even suggest it's the allocation of resources. Because people like the fascists or the communists, that's what they see. They see, oh, these are the resources, spread them. While others would be like, no, what about, like, they never even think of the idea of wealth creation.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that most, I don't want to say right-wingers, but individualists understand. So whether you're libertarian or objectivist or even conservative, they understand more of, it's not about distribution, it's about the creation and just the interaction.
Okay.
Okay. What?
I mean, I think it's. I wanted to. So like most people would try to dictate politics by economic means, but the way I would personally define economics, right, as of currently, right, would be the study of outcomes of how men interact with one another. So like when they try to justify their politics based off of economics, right, it doesn't really necessarily like matter if you're trying to like it has to be like philosophically moral first before you can like even study the outcome.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You think it should be okay? Interesting. So you think there should be moral laws on economics?
So moral laws on economics. No. So like the only moral laws or the government's only moral purpose is to protect human rights. That's essentially it. Anything that would have to, any laws that implemented in I wrote about this in part of my book. I said any economic laws or policies are inherently immoral because it would hurt one group in the benefit of another group. Inherently, no matter what law you try to throw at me, I can pretty much say it's going to hurt this group in the favor of this group, whether it's minimum wage, tariffs, and so on and so forth.
Yep. So then your idea is to not make any laws in general, just to protect human rights. That's what the
yes, total separation of state and economics.
Right. Some smart guy once said economic secularism. Right. I'm sure you agree with that guy's quote.
I do.
I'm the guy. I said that. Okay. Good. Well, okay. And then now, okay. Speaking of rights, then let's actually start right now. Oh, you got fans, Gabriel. Yeah. Oh wait, is okay. See, that's the thing. That flag right there that Gabriel Conde is using, isn't that the libertarian thing?
Yeah. He's actually. Yeah. He's a No, he's not really a libertarian. He's like in the middle between libertarianism and objectivism.
Oh, so you think objectivists are even more closer to anarchy than libertarians?
Yeah. Oh no, not closer than anarchy. Libertarians can encompass anarchy. So.
Oh, but objectivists don't, because well, that makes sense actually, because you said they do believe in a government and do believe government should protect people's rights.
Yeah, libertarianism is such a broad scale. There is an article by Schwartz. I forgot the first name. But he explains what is libertarianism essentially, and libertarianism can encompass anything from the Nazis to like Marxian views. So libertarianism is such a very broad scale, especially if we're going to talk about voluntarism. I mean, I got there's a couple of people on TikTok that are libertarians, and one of them is a crypto anarchist. I have no idea what a crypto anarchist is, but I mean.
Hey.
So again,
the broad spectrum of. Sorry, I said I understand why people would put Marxism in the broad spectrum of libertarianism, but Nazism, I don't see how that Nazism could any way correlate with libertarian.
I mean, you got to go to the history of the Nazi Party and why did it arose. I mean, they all collectively try to bound together to go against this brute force or something like that, and all the Jews and stuff like that. I don't want to get in too in deep into it because it's YouTube, but but they're trying to liberate themselves essentially. That's why it would be classified as a form of libertarianism.
Okay, that's kind of dumb, but okay, I can see that. Fair enough. Okay. Well, just so you guys know, I'm going to ask him some questions, and by 6:30 approximately, anyone else can either join us in voice chat or type it in to ask this man some questions. But first, and possibly one of the hardest questions of them all, what are your stances, or what are the objectivist stances on gun laws? Please, sir.
Okay, so the objectivist stances on gun laws. I mean, in current knowledge, right? It's kind of a back and forth thing. No, we do not advocate for gun laws because that would be an economic means. Guns would be a value to some other people, and it's total separation of state and economics. And economics encompasses trade and values. And if somebody values guns and you put regulations on that, then you're stopping people from acquiring private property. In current state, I am for the getting rid of the Second Amendment because I don't think it's a righteous amendment, right? But it is a right for you to, as Ayn Rand says, that it's not guaranteed for every human to get private property, but if you achieve it, then by right you must keep it and have it for exclusionary, not exclusionary, but total control of that private property. So I mean, there's not necessarily a fine line. The fine line in objectivism right now, there's probably tons of articles on gun control, but the line is quite blurry of where do we draw the line between guns is for safety and guns is for just guns, whatever. Hopefully in the most libertarian, not the libertarian, the objectivist view that one day, if we can get to a full-on capitalist society of just total eradication of economic force, which would be economic policies and regulations and so on and so forth, that guns wouldn't necessarily be needed, especially if we're talking about the removal of the legal status of drugs and sex work and
Well, okay, wait a minute. You tossed out a lot of information there. If tomorrow, hypothetically, we could get a quote-unquote objectivist party in power, okay? Do you think they could pretty much implement every gun law or lack thereof that you would advocate for?
I think no. I think it would be the total eradication of gun laws. The only regulations you could say is that the private owners of their own businesses who sell guns can only regulate their own stores. Say okay, what's your name? How old are you? I mean, you're too young. I don't want to sell to you. Then I mean, I don't want. If the gun owner is I wouldn't say smart, but if the gun owner chooses that you're 13. You can't really buy a gun. I'm not going to sell you a gun or something like that, and so on and so forth. And then I know this is the age thing is going to tie into the next question later on down the road, so we'll talk about that.
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. More related to what are your stances on border laws?
So the thing about border laws, so I don't see. So the government is to sovereign the land, right? Not necessarily that it owns the land, but sovereigns the land. It kind of makes it as a conceptual, how do I put this? A conceptual unit, right? A country is a unit, and to break it down into other units, it's individual societies, businesses, whatever, and so on forth. So as a sovereign unit, right? I don't really necessarily see that people on the borders who they cannot really necessarily put borders on stuff like that. They can put fences on their house and stuff like that. But this would be part of the military's job, especially the southern border or whatnot. But
yeah, that's the one.
I am in favor of the wall after maybe removing, welfare, social security, making especially social security private. Also,
Yeah.
reforming the drug laws as well, because that's one of the major problems when it comes to like conservatives and paleocons when they're talking about the wall and stuff. They say, well, 90% of like heroin comes over the border. I mean, like, well, that's not an immigration problem. Rather, that's just the problem that we have currently in America. This is our drug reform, right? So if we can
Yeah.
reform that, and then maybe we can implement a wall sooner or later. The wall, essentially, the major thing about the wall would essentially be child trafficking. That would probably be it.
Yeah. No. Pretty much fine. In terms of what about in terms of citizenship? So you don't think you think any person who swims across the ocean? I know this sounds impossible, but just go with it. They have a right to live in America.
I would say they have a freedom of movement. I wouldn't say, I don't think there's anything such as a right to like live somewhere. You are not, you don't have a right to live anywhere. I don't have the right to your resources. I don't have the right to like your particular land. My thing is in the government, I view of a unit, right? The government is only to protect human rights. If somebody wants to come over here, they are allowed to. But if you want to go into like the hands of like citizenship or whatnot, so that's kind of like a trickier thing. But going towards most like more of to an objectivist government, it's quite hard to say because most statistics say
It is,
like
yeah.
they vote a lot more democratic or so on and so forth. So that's like really hard. So I kind of almost take the Hoppian view on immigration, like net zero immigration. But at the same time, if we were ever to live in a more of an objectivist government, the amount of influx of people who vote Democrat doesn't necessarily matter, since like objective law is the objective law. So there's not much change, especially if we're having total separation of state and economics. There's nothing that they can really do but elect people to, I don't know. I mean, I think there is a threshold of the amount of laws the government would eventually implement. So I think the point of the government, once all the laws has been reached as a threshold, would necessarily probably be just policing. You could elect who wants to be the police, like the chief or whatever, or democratically, or like not democratically, but like a representative in the military, stuff like that. Law wise, I mean, it's going to be very hard to change laws once you reach that threshold.
So no, you got cut off after you said law wise. What?
I said, law wise, it's going to be hard to keep adding more and more laws, because like eventually, like if you have all the laws to encompass all like current knowledge known to man, right, without no contradictions or anything like that, what else is there? Like, there's not many more laws to implement anymore. So like it's going to reach a threshold where we can't implement any laws, and if we were to do it, it would be economics, and we can't do that. So there would be a threshold of like, okay, we've done everything we can. Now the only thing to do is to enforce these laws, provide a court and military.
Okay, and do you think it's possible to have a objectivist party rule America for 4 years, and then 4 years later to have just a different party take that? Or no, once objectivism.
Yeah, say it again.
I said, do you think it's possible for have just 4 years of a objectivist president with a objectivist Speaker of the House and objectivist Senate, but then 4 years later to undo everything there? Or no, like once you have objectivism, you'd want it kind of permanently, like complete economic secularization.
Oh yeah, so that's the whole point of like making a new constitution, because the constitution we have is a pile of garbage. I know you would differ with that, but I'm saying that.
But yeah.
But I'm saying that the Constitution wouldn't be necessarily amendments, because today you can like amend amendment and be like, oh, well, we can change it. It's not really a right. Well, the thing about the new Constitution, it will be its purpose would be identified. It would be, everything would be explicit. See, a lot of like the morals and like the beliefs our founding fathers have written in the Constitution explicitly, like they recognized our rights. They didn't give us rights like some people believe or whatever. But a lot of their ideas were very explicit and was very implicit and was not explicit. So hopefully in this like new ideal society, it would be more explicit, its purpose, what are they, and how the government should enforce those.
Okay, so then what, you'd want a violent revolution to implement the new constitution?
Me personally, not necessarily, but I see where a lot of people that do want it. I mean, see, the accelerationism is kind of like a toss up, because we got so many people that's like economically left and so many people that's economically right. And I think like the right side is more diverse in comparison to the left side. The left side is like a bundle of like multiple bundles of sticks, not faggots. So I mean. So I mean, you got on the left side, you got Marxist, Leninists, communists, and comms, and then like I
And
don't
even
know,
social democrats, like European social democrats.
yeah, Orthodox. I think it's just a bunch of bundles of sticks, or a bundle of like ideologies, and they're dispersed. But like libertarians, I mean, like it's like one principle can be off, and like the whole other side is about out to get you. So my thing, I mean, except it's all a toss up. So it's like either the right versus left altogether. So I to really justify the people who want to have it, accelerationism, if you can look at the government as a unit, and you can necessarily say that if the government's only moral purpose is to protect human rights, and if it's not in a state currently and it's infringing on their rights and stuff like that, then that would warrant like a justification to go against the government. But I'm not personally one of those people.
Oh, okay, interesting. And also, what do you think this person meant with the Homestead Act is a good model? Do you know what this person's talking about? Because I honestly have no idea.
Of it. I'm aware of it, but I gotta refresh real quick. Act. So the Homestead Act, enacted in the Civil War in 1862, provided that any adult citizen or intended citizen who had never borne arms against the U.S. government could claim 160 survey of government land. Of government land. If the government wants to just like give away land for free, I'm down for that. But personally, it would make more sense for the government to go ahead and sell a lot of this land, especially to private contractors or whatnot, especially like private roads. So like when we're constantly moving towards to more of an objectivist government, the government will just sit on a pile of money before it can actually implement its funding system. And then we'll talk about that later. So yeah, it would make more sense for the government to sell all the land, like the national parks, the statues, all that, anything that's been tax paid. We as the people can take it back and whatever we want to do with the land, make new businesses or whatnot.
Okay. Good thing. We'll get to the statues. But briefly, let's just go through the animals. In this system, you said government's only job is to protect human rights. And that's it. Just courts, police, and military. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, so can people fish as much as they want and hunt for animals as much as they want?
Yeah. So so I already know what road you're going down. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this example that I thought of over the break. So the example, I think the number one food or supplement category you could say that's untouched by the FDA is food supplements, not food supplements, but like weight gainers and stuff like that. Like whey and protein and all that is the like untouched by the FDA, not regulated or anything. I would have to ask most people, like, since it's not touched by the FDA and people believe like, oh, the FDA saves lives or regulates food, did not make sure to like we're not poisoned or anything. We're not being poisoned or killed by like weight gainers today. The point I'm trying to get across here is that the reason being it's because of what's the communal? There's communities out there that goes test these products, right? And they let these products know to the public, and they're publicly funded, not publicly funded, but they are voluntarily funded nonprofit organizations that go test foods and say, okay, here, don't try this food because X, Y, and Z, this is what's going on, and this is going to hurt their business. Same thing would apply here. When people, I don't know if you hear it, but there's a lot of rain going on.
No.
So the same, okay. So the same principle would technically apply here, right? If people are fishing too much and stuff like that, and it would warrant a private organization who cares about animals to go ahead and buy a plot of land, buy some animals, and keep the animals and breed them in that little area, and then let them free if you choose to. That would apply everywhere.
Right. Okay. And they would buy this land from the government?
If somebody already has the land that's not really doing anything, or if they already done something, they can buy the land and they can also buy animals to breed in there if the animals are just like about to go extinct. Same thing that happens with
No. What I'm saying, no. Who are they buying it from? Because you just told them they can buy a land and breed the animals there.
Yeah.
Who are they buying this land from? So they're paying this money to the government?
They can. I think government does own land. Well, they do, not think. They do own land to protect animals. They can either buy it from the government or they can just buy it from other private people who just hold land just for whatever reason. There's probably people out there that just hold the lands for like whatever reason and don't really do anything with it. So like wherever they get it from, they can do the same thing, either from the government or private contractors.
Huh. Okay. Well, right now, all the land in the world isn't owned by. That's why the stuff that isn't owned by a random person, you're saying, yeah, that's technically goes under the government, and then they can just buy it from the government, right?
Yeah, if it's owned by the government, they can buy it from the government. If it's owned by an individual, they can buy it from the individual.
Oceans. Right now, there is a UN law that says you can every country's land borders. I think it's like 200 miles out of the land. That country owns that ocean water. It's a law that most countries are going with. It's an international law. First of all, actually, how do you feel about international law? Actually,
I don't necessarily agree with international law.
okay, okay, this is going to be interesting then. So this whole idea of so they own 200 miles out of the land in an objectivist America. You think people could take I don't know, billionaires could build an island that's more than 200 miles away from the land?
So, I mean, in theory, technically, yes, they should be able to allow to. Not in its current state. If we're thinking about I'm not a pragmatist. Yeah, I'm not a pragmatist, right? But I mean, you do have to take into account of other countries, and it's going to be a little bit hard when it comes to international law. But an example of this, I don't know if you're familiar with Milton Friedman, but Milton Friedman's son, David Friedman, and his son, I don't know his first name, but whatever Friedman, the third.
Friedman Jr.
Yeah, he's currently building I don't know how to explain it, but he's building artificial islands on water, right? Currently as we speak. So he owns this organizations of building little islands on top of water, and it's like little platforms that comes above the water, and it's like concrete little islands and stuff like that. So like the thing is that if that gets really popular, then international law would have to change in a certain sense, because if we start populating, I don't know if that's a word, but populating, thank you, populating all these little mini islands, then I mean international law would just be of no use.
Well, see, and this is the issue is once you exceed that 200 miles, then you're pissing off half the world, and I don't know. I feel like countries that aren't objectivists, they're probably going to declare war on those private businesses that are building islands that are exceeding the international boundary.
Well, no, okay. So my thing, what I was saying is that if America starts doing it and starts like populating the ocean, right, within our boundaries right now, and other countries start doing it, right, then we can still have the same thing as a branch of the country, right? Instead of water, it'll just be like artificial land now. It'll just be replaced.
Right, actually, and that actually complicates things even more, because I just realized if the UN law is that, you 200 miles out of your land is your water, that by that logic, if I build land 200 miles west of or south of Florida, then technically I've just expanded America's water boundary. I've kind of just, because then it's another 200 miles that way.
I don't. I mean, I'm not necessarily like people who run the international law, but personally, I wouldn't even expand the water amount if we go 200 miles. I wouldn't even do that.
Oh, you wouldn't extend it? Yeah, you would just say the original land is what.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And this guy, Tree of Liberty, is just yelling. It's called seasteading. I think that's what he's talking about with Milton Friedman's grandson.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay, fair enough. Now, the environment. Okay, we kind of touched on it with the fishes, but don't you think this whole idea of, you know, government just has to protect your life, but doesn't have to give a shit about the animals, doesn't that eventually just allow people just to exploit the environment, just to take more, for example, fish more fish that are able to reproduce, or cut more trees that are able to grow? So before the trees that are able to regrow, you've already cut most of the trees in the world. Have you not seen the Lorax? If someone like you doesn't care a whole lot, nothing's gonna matter. It's not.
Okay.
Come on, man. Dr.
Two
Seuss.
things. So two things about the wildlife first. Same thing. A principle applies. Somebody can buy a plot of land and protect these animals. Because animals, like we can go into that later, but animals don't have right. They can be just declared as property, right? And if you own these property, then you are not. If you violate my animals, you're violating my rights as property rights, and I can get the government to go after you, right? So there would be tons of organizations who's willing to do that, especially like there's tons of like animal lovers. I mean, we got 320 million people. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people that's going to open up an organization to try to protect wildlife. I mean, there's ads. I mean, you're not in America, but there's ads up there like, oh, donate to this organization, whatever. So that wildlife wouldn't necessarily be a particular a problem. I mean, in a sense, but we're like losing. We're like a lot of animals are going extinct daily already, and I mean, I think it would be more efficient if private companies would be allowed to like try to protect each of these animals that's going extinct daily. But like for the most prominent ones like rhinos and pandas and different types of lions and stuff like that, I think private companies would do more efficiently than the government to try to protect those, especially if they're going to be declared under property rights. Secondly, first off, science is secure. There's actually more trees today than like a couple 100 years ago. So like we're actually planting more than like what we're cutting down. An example is like Mr. Beast or whatever, where he did it like his little tree farm or whatever. So the thing about like the trees and stuff like that, once again, same principle applies. If somebody just wants to like buy a plot of land, just to keep trees and stuff like that, that's great too. But just there's more trees than we're like really cutting down and stuff. So.
No, I'm aware of that, but that's because we don't live in an objectivist world. I think that's why we have so much. I think if people would be free enough to exploit the environment, I think they would. But you're saying you believe the private businesses and people in general would donate to causes to save the forests and animals?
Yeah, people would be willing to do that in a privatized whole system, especially and also a lot of the land would be private, right? So if people wanted to start a business and owns this plot of land, right, you as another individual don't have the right to come down and cut my trees, right? Because the government says, okay, the government would say, okay, we need this built, right? Or they have bureaucrats and somebody says, hey, we need this built, and the government is like, nah. They'll be like, oh, we need this built, right? Because the government is not subject to economic laws or they're not subject to economic laws. Like when I mean economic laws, like supply and demand, marginal utility, like just basic economics law like that, because they're not subject to it, they can be incredibly wasteful. So like if the bureaucrats say, no, we don't need this, but we actually need this, and they can go hire people and they say out of all the land that they own, right, they could just point to a particular place of land and say, lumberjacks, go cut this down because we need wood for this, this, and this. But if it's like all privatized, then like if I own this plot of land, if I'm just trying to do whatever I want to do, and you and another individual come in and try to like take my trees, and then like I can get the government to come get you.
No, of course not. Yeah, exactly. And also, I'm sure you would agree if, well, first of all, if someone breaks into your house, you and I both agree you are allowed to shoot them. And if somebody, same thing, if they, oh, actually, I don't know. How do you feel if someone shoots your dog? Do you think you're allowed to shoot them in self-defense?
Interesting. I wasn't even expecting that. I mean, I would say no, because no, just
you can think about it. While he thinks about it, there is I put a link in the live chat. You guys could use that link, and you would join us live, and you would help me grill this guy.
Yeah, right. So I mean that's pretty interesting because like if somebody like shoot my dog, am I allowed to shoot them back? And one part of my mind saying no, you're not allowed to shoot them because it's just like private property. It's not a direct effect to your life. But in more of an objectivist idea, one, it is, and two, if somebody breaks into your house, there's aggression to your property rights, not your life. But the point is that it could. 'Cause, 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 I would have to say yes. You can be able to defend your private property as however, essentially you own the dog, they're infringing on your yeah. I was thinking of that. I know they're infringing on your property rights. So I think the same principle would apply if somebody would break into your house, right? They don't necessarily, like, 9 times out of 10 they are, but they don't necessarily like encompass the immediate threat to your life, right? And the same thing that would apply to your dog. If somebody just like shot your dog, you would be able to allow to like retaliate with the same amount of force.
Okay, no, that's fair. I think right now, technically, if somebody shoots you, you're allowed to shoot them in self-defense. But I don't think if they shot your dog last week, you're allowed to find them and kill them. I don't think that's allowed in America.
Yeah, that would be like revenge, not necessarily like enforcing your rights back on them.
Yeah, I know. Fair enough. Okay. Now, how do you feel about abortion?
Pro-life.
Hmm?
Pro-life.
Pro-life?
Mm-hmm.
You hesitated.
No, I didn't. I said pro-life, and you said and then I said pro-life again.
Oh no, I didn't hear. Okay, no, because I thought this person was trying to talk, but no. Okay, so you're pro-life. So, meaning this, I thought majority of objectivists would agree with me and be like, again, it is their body, and I know, feminists. I'm not saying my body, my no, but it is actually their body, and there's a baby that's inside their body, and it's, I think if they want to be, if they abort it, kill it, they should be. Just don't make us pay for it. But you're saying no, the government should never allow somebody.
Frozen. Hello.
I could hear you. Okay, yeah. So did you hear what I said?
The government should never allow what?
Should there be for the person to get an abortion? Should there be like a week limit? Like, are you kind of going with the Georgia bill, like 6 week, the heartbeat bill or something like that?
No, the Georgia bill is still inconsistent. I would prefer conception. What
do you mean by that exactly?
As soon as like the sperm meets that point, that's when determines human life.
Wow, interesting. That is interesting. Well, I mean, because if we ever find something like that, like on another planet, we think that's a life. If we see, so I get how it's a life. I mean, personally, again, I'm more of the heartbeat person. I'm like, unless it has a heartbeat, you should be allowed to kill it. But how do you plan on enforcing that if everyone has their private property? Don't you think it's going to open a black market and with some private hospitals that are going to perform abortions secretly?
So okay, you're saying like how would the government enforce that if everybody had their private property? But if you had a son and I take your son or something like that, right? Or let's say for a hypothetical. Well, no, I don't want to switch like that. But let's say I just like get some random kid off the street and just start murdering them in my house. Like, what does the government do? Going to peacefully knock and be like, "Oh, it's private property. I'm not killing anybody in here." Like, the government would be allowed to try to like barge in and like stop whatever black markets as well.
Without the government noticing.
I mean, without the government noticing. I mean, illegal things happen all the time without the government noticing. The point is to be as moral as possible. It's the point is not to try to stop every single one. I mean, just because we made a murder illegal doesn't mean every single murder has gone down. The point is to be that laws should be like morally justified or philosophically justified.
So, wait, would you say then if someone prefers abortion, there should be? Someone asked you, wouldn't that be a regulation on the free market?
Wouldn't that be no? So no, killing is not a value.
No, yeah, that was makes sense. Performed an abortion. You think they should be in prison?
It would go the same thing as this whatever the objectivist standard of what would be classified as murder. Tara Smith has a whole book explaining objective law. She runs down every single law, goes to like the threshold, the standards, and how long and everything. She has a whole book on it explaining the objectivist point of law, and I think that is a great book if you guys want to get detail. I've never read it, but I've sifted through it, but I've just never really read it.
Huh. So, what is the name of the book?
Let me look. I never really read test. So it's called Judicial Review in an Objective Legal System.
Judicial Review and Objective Legal System.
Yep, in an objective legal system.
Okay, and I'll check the book, but how do you feel about the death penalty then?
I'm actually anti-death penalty. The reason being the 4% number. Actually two reasons. Yeah, so the 4% reason, and that we never have we always have uncertainty of who actually did what. So I say, well, 4% are people that put on death row is actually innocent, and most people would combat that says, well, what about the people that we know for 100%, right? We saw him in the action, he did it 100%. You can't lie about it. The thing is, okay, so let's say you have person A and B, right? So person A commits a terrorist crime, right? And he definitely way passes the threshold of being put on death row. And let's say you have person B that commits a crime that wasn't as bad as person A, but still barely meets that threshold of being put on death penalty, right? Let's say person A that commit the terrorist crime, right? We're 95% sure that he did it, but we just still have that small amount of doubt. And then you have person B that we know for a fact that he did it. Let's put person B on death row, and then let's just like keep person A until we can like figure it out. The thing about that is that it allows subjectivity in the law, right? Somebody committed a lesser crime than the other person, but the person that did the lesser crime gets to die for, and the other person doesn't.
Wow, that's a very, very good point. I mean, I was never pro death penalty, but if I was, I would have changed my mind right then and there.
I've committed. I mean, not committed. I've changed. I've changed a couple of minds with that argument before.
I know you're right, yeah, because you don't want subjectivity within the law. That I could never argue against that. You're right. We never want subjectivity against the law. It's kind of like the free speech argument. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of bad people who say really horrible things, but who do you want to give the power to regulate speech? That's why you don't regulate speech. Because yeah, who do you trust with that power? And exactly, you're right. You never want a subjectivity within the law.
I mean, if we can determine 100%, 24/7, never miss a spot, I would probably I wouldn't care being pro death penalty or not. I necessarily wouldn't care as long as it's not being funded forcibly by taxation. I'd be down.
Oh, okay. No, fair enough. Guys, if you're going to join us live, make sure your profile pic and name are appropriate. But thank you. Let's get to the age. Actually, no. I'm going to save age of consent for later.
Okay.
I rather, because somebody in the comments brought up something really interesting, and I can't. Okay, if any of my moderators are watching this, just don't ban people. It's okay if somebody was put in a time zone. Okay, at the beginning, this person said, Gabriel said, crypto anarchism is anarchy achieved through technological means.
Well, it has the word anarchy in it, so.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if eventually government made currencies and just use cryptocurrency, yeah, we just slowly get rid of the government. That actually makes a lot of sense. How do you think we could ever achieve this objectivist world with votes, with a revolution, or with just a slow technological process? Because I think we're already moving farther and farther from a. Well, actually, some people would disagree with me. Some people say governments are getting bigger and bigger. Well, personally, I see both happening. I see governments are getting bigger, especially in Canada. Oh, they're getting huge, but it's also in some ways governments are getting smaller because this whole idea for this cryptocurrency is like the most decentralized currency. I mean, I think this is arguably the first decentralized currency in human history. It's like it's a currency that has nothing that governments can't regulate. I know the government of China is trying to regulate, but they can't. And yeah, so how do you think we could ever achieve this objectivist North America?
So firstly, accelerationism in a sense, that's fine. Not really, but it's fine in a sense, because it's still justified in a sense, right? Secondly, personally using democracy against democracy, but the problem that encompasses trust. But you could add another method of using democracy against democracy. That the government has a democracy and they democratically vote to infringe on the rights, so we can use democracy against them to boot them out of office and so on and so forth. So we could try to use that, but before then, I would start learning philosophy first, learning morals. Ayn Rand has a perfect quote. She talks about well, first off, let me go ahead and explain the John Galt quote. The quote is very short. It's not word by word, but it says, "I love my life so much that I will not live for the sake of another man, nor force another man to live for the sake of mine." Mm-hmm. Now, as a derivative of that quote, another one is that now I can't think. Now I can't think. Okay, so oh, okay, yeah. So he talks about if you wish to return to morality, right? The point is not if you want to continue to living as a moral being, right? Do not return to morality, but rather discover it. And this is my whole entire thing. I think it's everything starts with philosophy and morals and stuff like that. If you can absolutely obliterate someone who says no, whatever you believe in is absolutely immoral, right? I think there's no wiggling out of that. But if everybody wants to debate economics and stuff like that, I think it'll be a little bit harder because people can say just like, you know what? I don't know, maybe I just didn't have all the information, or maybe I didn't have all the talking points. Let me go back into my laboratory, go research more empirical data and see if I can come back. But nobody's arguing actually like the morals. You're not changing the morals. You're just saying, well, your economic system doesn't work, and be like, well, they're still going to go back to their laboratory or their room or whatever they study at and say, well, I have to figure out a way of how we're going to do this. But they're not looking at their morals first.
Well, okay. And speaking of morals, what would you say is the correct age of consent, and how could a government regulate this?
So necessarily, I wouldn't say there is a correct age of consent. I mean, this is a really hard one because in a sense, firstly, we have to decide where is the point where the mother doesn't have or the parent doesn't have necessarily like control over the child. There is you're probably going to be like pretty wild about this one. There is an objectivist book on parenting.
Really? Okay, I gotta see that. Yeah.
It's by Leonard Peikoff. So there is an objectivist book on parenting. So we would I think the best way we'd have to decide is like, okay, let's go to the roots of what's the definition of individual, right? Let's go to the roots of the individual. What do we mean by individuality? What does it encompass, and what is the nature of individuality, right? And we would have to decide of like what because objectivism revolves around the mind, reason, and individuality, and that's all from our mind and whatever. And consciousness, right? So we would have to decide like, okay, what point of time in a human where it like you can by all standards meet like you are in like an actual individual. Like children are individuals too, and to a certain extent, but like they're still like mandated by the parents to do X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth, because they still have the moral obligation to take responsibility over them, and they do have right to parenting. Right. But we would have to figure out, okay, what's the age of like where the children can be deemed as an individual. Once that separation from the parent and the child or teenager or adolescent, whatever that point is, determine that. Whatever that point is, I think that would be the okay time to go ahead and allow the children to branch off as an individual to make these choices of like sex work, drugs, and so on and so forth.
Okay, well, yeah, I think that's something we want to get into then. What age would be the right age to own a gun, and what age would be the right age for that child to vote in elections, and what age would be the right age for that child to drink alcohol? What age would be the right age for that child to take puberty blockers? And should these 4 different ages all be the same thing or not?
They should be the same thing.
I agree. That's actually what. So whatever the number you want to give, I do think you should make them the same, because you want to say this person is allowed to put hormones, like for transgender child. I think, first of all, I think what we're doing right now is horrible. Letting these kids say, "Oh, I'm a girl. Let's just inject this person with hormone," and just they're changing their whole their, I don't want to call they're playing God, but I'm just saying, like, you're just messing with nature. You know, it's not even a religious point. This is just like you're messing up your own growth hormones. So, you know, should we allow a child to do that, but they're not allowed to drink alcohol? Like, again, what do you have a number for that, or just an approximate?
I mean, it would. Firstly, it would take some heavy philosophical thinking and definitions, right? In our current context of knowledge, right, as an objectivist, right, what do we mean by an individual? What is the nature of individual, right? So we set that standard as an individual, right? Or another word, right? I don't know what other word would suit more like hyper specific to resemble as an individual, right? But we say, like, what is the nature? What does it mean to be an individual? We would try to like get the philosophical, like, real answer of that and try to apply that to different points of time. Because I mean, 25, yeah, sure, but not necessarily. Like, I could say, like,
I think he's joking.
I mean, you can say, yeah, I know that, but you could say, like, okay, just because your brain is fully developed, what's so special about that? Like, okay, so what? Why should I care? Give me like a justification of why should I care that, oh, because your brain is fully developed, that does that make you an individual? How? Right? So there would have to be like clear justification for that. But I would say, I mean, I can give an approximate number. I would say, like, where your true individualness would rather like start to form would be between like the ages of 16 and 19, 18. I mean, somewhere around there. But we would have to just, you know, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, no, this is actually a very difficult subject, and we could make a whole live stream just based on these ages. And yeah, you know what? In fact, that's what I'm going to do for next week, or this Sunday. It's at approximately 8 p.m. I'm going to do a live stream just based on these ages, because it's not just about the age of consent, but it's also like, what ages do you allow kids, you know, to buy guns for self-defense, or what age do you allow these people to adopt other kids? You know what I mean? These are such big questions, and for I think most of them, the age of 18 seems like a good idea. But then the issue is, you don't think someone under 18 should allowed to have sex with anybody? Like, so then the government should monitor everyone under 18? You know what I mean?
I mean, well, first off, let me answer this part. I mean, like, if let's say it is 18, right? Let's say like the legal status of being 18 is equivalent to like the philosophical status of an individual, and the ages correlate, right? We can say just 18, boom, right? So then 18 would be the same as guns, drugs, alcohol,
voting.
Fucking yeah, voting. I mean, like, voting in an objectivist system, I wouldn't care. Like, I mean, like, if you vote a representative, what is the worst he can really do? Right. I genuinely don't care. That's why, like, at that point in an objectivist government, I don't care how many immigrants come in, really. I mean, like, I mean, you know, so like, the thing about like 18, I mean,
well, that's the thing. To me, besides sex, everything else, being 18 makes perfect sense. The age we're allowed to buy a gun, the age we're allowed to vote for representatives, the age where you're allowed to drink alcohol. In fact, the age we're allowed to do every drug, because I'm sure you and I both agree most harmless drugs should be legalized anyway. In fact, even some drugs that cause a little bit of harm, but as long as, you know, they don't cause societal harm, should also be legalized. You know what I mean? Like, as long as, like, okay, assisted suicide, for example, I'm sure you agree with that.
No.
You don't
No.
agree with it. It's just suicide.
No.
Okay.
That would go
if an
into like
individual attempts suicide, should they be punished?
if somebody attempts suicide.
If they attempt suicide, because that's legit how it is in Canada. If you attempt suicide and you fail, obviously you don't die. The government will actually monitor you. In fact, in Canada, the government will take you, put you in a mental hospital, and you'll 24/7 be monitored.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would say attempted suicide, that's perfectly legal. The only problem here is like if you try to like commit suicide on somebody else's like private land, and if you like don't die from that, then yeah, you'd be like, yo, bro, like you can commit suicide, just don't do it on my private land. Like
Well,
you'll
no,
be
that makes
fine for that.
sense.
So.
But on their own land, you don't think they should be allowed to commit suicide?
No, I mean, they have the. I mean, it's not a right to life if they can't take it.
But doesn't an individual have a right to take their own life?
They do, because the reason being, as I previously stated in the Discord chat, right? I said every choice as an individual, right? Every single choice that we make is a derivative from the root choice, right? Do I want to live or do I want to die? Every choice is a derivative from life and death, right? And if a person just says give up and says they just want to choose death, then they have the right to act in accordance with their own choices.
Good. So then, wait. So then you do agree that they should be allowed to commit suicide?
Yes, not necessarily assisted. No.
No. That makes okay. That makes a lot more sense. And what about when it comes to minors doing sexual deeds with other minors? Should the government? So this is actually before the person becomes individual. So let's say you and I both agree that 18 is when a person truly achieves their individualism. Although to me, 25 actually, in some stances, like honestly, if it was up to me right now, I would make them voting age 25. But we're talking about a hypothetical objectivist society. Are you okay with a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old being in a sexual relationship? Or 12-year-old and a 16-year-old?
I mean, the first question that we have to answer is that what's the importance in sexual relationships, and why does age play a bigger role in that? If we can really like answer that question, I mean, age increases your volitional activity, right? What I mean by volitional activity is that like when you're 1 and 2, I mean, it's like mom's like, do you like your food? And you're like, it's a yes or no. Like you don't have much volition of choice to do things, right? But like with your choice, and I'm not talking about like a choice in the sense of like your parents, as you get older, your parents are allowing you to do more and more, but I'm talking about volition activity of like you as an individual without your parents can do more and more. So like if we can tie that to like age and then like sexual relationships, I mean, I think that answer would be a little bit easier to answer, right? Because it's like, okay, like we got to answer like why should like sex be illegal in the first place, right? And then we can answer that and and so forth, and then we can work our way. Okay, what's the state of being an individual? And then after answering that, then we can go back over like, okay, here is the individual part, and here is not an individual part. They cannot consent because one can like consent, and one as an individual cannot consent. But like, what if like we say two of them can't consent? Like, should they be like go to jail for doing that? Like, I don't know. It's a tough question.
It is that's why I get okay. I really hope you do join us this Sunday at 6 p.m. EST. We're going to purely focus on the age questions, and not just sexual, but it will be mainly focused on the sexual because that's always the fun. It's funner to talk about, but it's also more controversial to talk about. So the best of both worlds. And I'm curious what anybody else who's watching this thinks about that, because I assume majority of the viewers are libertarian. I'm assuming. Personally, I would call myself libertarian as well, mostly. And one stance I've heard most libertarians take is they say 16 plus, anything goes. So once you're 16, you're allowed to have sex with whoever you want. You're allowed to sell your nudes online. You're allowed to sell your body, prostitution. You have to do whatever you want. It's a in fact, I personally thought that was going to be your stance. But again, I'm glad you're smarter and you realize it's not as simple as, okay, let's just pick one age. That's it. Everything goes. But that's the thing. Most libertarians I've noticed just pick either 16 or 18 or even 21. or 25, and say, yeah, once you reach this age, anything goes. You're allowed to do whatever you want with your body, including, actually, we didn't even talk about tattoos, but again, when does someone achieve fully bodily autonomy? Should people under 18 be allowed to put tattoos?
Everyone has full-on bodily autonomy in the sense of what they can and cannot do with their body. Once again, now everyone. Let me. So you still have bodily autonomy, like even like little kids, they have full bodily autonomy, right? The problem is it comes to action, right? Parents can tell you what not to take inside your body and what you can and cannot do with your body in a sense, but you as an individual still have bodily autonomy, right? So like you can for bodily autonomy you can choose to how do I explain this? uh it ties into that individual question again, right? But for tattoos particularly, like I don't care if like because it's interfering with like another source of value. If somebody wants to value like art or something like that on their hands, like if like the kid's all right and the mom's all right, I don't care.
Right. Okay. What about puberty blockers and stuff like that? Should they be allowed to transition at a young age? I personally say no, but again, what do you think? What do you personally think? What does your objectivist side think?
It's I mean
It's a tough question, right? I mean, like I said, I've asked these last few questions have been very tough,
yeah.
and we could save these for the next week. Are you
That's
gonna be
fine.
free next week?
I think the initial answer for right now, right, is yes. If the kid's down with it and the mom is down with it, they should be able to do it. But at the same time, it's like I can't like spontaneous think of a justification of why my second answer should be right. But it's like it alters your mind in a sense, right? But it's kind of like difficult. So I say the initial answer as right now is like if the kid's fine with it and the mom and dad is fine with it, they should be allowed to.
What if the mom and dad are divorced? The dad is not fine with it. The mom is fine with it.
Who has custody as of currently?
Good question. What if they have shared custody?
That's actually a thing.
Yeah, I'm sure America, you guys have the same thing, but yeah, again,
I didn't even know if that was like a thing. Oh yeah, shared custody. If they're like, okay, yeah, my bad. I was thinking stupid. Like that.
What were you thinking?
Wait. Yeah. I was thinking something stupid. It's like yeah, the dad's so. I mean, no. I mean, if I think the final decider would have to be in the current context that's given right now. I would think the final decider would have to be the child. That's kind of tough though.
A 12-year-old child should be allowed to decide if they want to chop off their own dicks.
I mean, it doesn't go like that, but
no, I know.
It's either that. I mean, like I can't like really spontaneously like come up with like a because like philosophy is like really so complex, right? You have to go into like okay, first off, you have to address like what's actually happening. What is the effects of what's actually happening, right? And what's the does that go into like parenting rights, something like that? I mean, you have because the government's only more purposes to protect rights. So like, whose rights are being infringed on here? Or you know what I'm saying?
I think it's the parents' rights. I think right now Canada. Okay, we got to wrap this up. We've exceeded the 1 hour limit, but personally, I think in Canada, where the government of Canada is overstepping their boundaries.
Of course.
In a lot of ways, like the in some cases, the government is allowing the kids to have hormones when the father said no, but the mother said yes. In fact, I'm sure it has happened in America too, where literally just because the parents were divorced, the mom had more power, which, again, one of their rights is being infringed upon. I'm not saying the mom's opinion doesn't matter, but again, like, what about the dad? And the other issue is that the other issue, and this is the worst part, is that there are parents who are so ideological that they want their kids to get the hormones even when the kid doesn't. So like there's a bit of a conflict happening right now that unfortunately I don't know the answer to, and I have to. That's why I said I would love to make this a future topic and really think about this, because it's like you want to protect everyone's bodily autonomy, but I also don't think the government should step in. Like, I would go as far as to say, even if a parent is beating their kids, see, now it gets complicated. I don't know what age limit do we just to me, what I've noticed historically speaking, in all tyrannical regimes, whether left wing or right wing, the government, there's a pattern you've noticed, like not just with the Hitler Youth, but even Lenin and communists have always said, give me the kids and I'll give you a revolution. And it's like they love to manipulate kids, and that's why I've noticed in most cases it's actually better to protect parents' rights than the kids' rights. And dare I say, even when a parent is beating their kids, I think again the government shouldn't step in until a certain age. Ban all gender change. I don't know if you're joking about that or not, but I think again, if you're under 18, it's a really bad idea. Again, this is a very complicated, and I really hope most of you guys come back this Sunday at 6. God, brain going tired. I need coffee. This Sunday at 8 p.m. It's going to be really interesting, just ages in general. And also, let's try to separate our views. In fact, I don't know, actually, Larry, if that's how you feel. But personally, when it comes to just views and political views and personal life, I actually have a separation. I don't know if you do. Like with me, I don't think abortion should be illegal. But personally, I would never get an abortion. So that's the way I feel. It's also like weed. I don't like smoking weed, but I don't think it should be illegal. Final thoughts on that? Do you have a separation between your personal life and your views, your philosophical views? Do you have a separation?
No, you can't have a separation. There's an Ayn Rand quote. She says, "Is if you eat an apple for health and you drink poison for harm, poison is always going to win." So you can't have necessarily a separation, since you can't take bits and pieces of what you want to integrate and just exclude the others. Philosophy in its whole is a study of man's interactions with reality. I mean, you can't say, well, this I choose it to be, I want to integrate it, but you cannot choose to integrate the other.
With all due respect, hell yes, you can. I don't smoke weed, but I do think weed should be legalized.
No. Okay, so like this is my thing. No. That's fine, right? Because like the legalization of like weed and stuff like that can be justified and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, but the abortion can't, right? You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean? Just because I wouldn't get an abortion, I still do think abortion should be legalized, but I wouldn't get one.
Wait, illegal or legal?
Legal. I think you should be allowed to get abortions.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
It can't be justified though. Like if you can watch like all of our debates on the classical liberal hype house, like every single pro-choicer, like they don't win.
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't even call myself super pro-choice, because every pro-choice I've ever met is also like, hell yeah, and the government should pay for it. I think I'm more of the, I guess, libertarian pro-choice, with no, pay for your own shit. But like, I'm saying I could definitely have my views and have a different political view. Like, I would vote for a candidate to legalize abortion, but I myself wouldn't get one. So you don't think that's possible? You think I'm secretly hiding my views or something?
No, you can do that pragmatically, but if we're talking about, if we want to be like have objective law, like you can't really like do that. Like if somebody comes out and is like, yo, I wanna make like abortion is legal or something like that, and then like under objective law, of course you can't do that.
Oh yeah. Okay, no, I understand that. Under objective law, yeah, you can't do that. But I'm just saying in general, have you ever had a view that in your life you would do it in one way, but legally you would vote for something else?
No, because I live by the principle, like the same legal principles.
Fair enough.
That's the whole thing of like objectivism. It's all hierarchical. This thing is justified by this, and this is justified by this, and it's like a whole. I already told you the objectivist pyramid. Everything is justified by the previous thing. So like the way we live as individuals dictates how we live as law, right? So there's no separation there.
Okay. You know what? I just ran myself in my own scenario, and realized if a girl that I'm seeing right now messages me and says she's pregnant, no, I would get an abortion. So no, you know what? I take that back. Actually, I guess my thing. But I'm sure there's one thing. You know what? I will find one thing that I personally believe in that I would legally disagree with. I'm sure there's one thing. I'm sure I can find, but you're right. The abortion one, I take that back because you're right. I would go with the abortion one. Yeah, I'm sure I will find something. But no, you're right. I'll give you that though. You're right. You're right. I can't think of anything right now that I would legally disagree with, but personally would agree with. No, everything I. That's a good point. I wonder if everybody else is like this. If
Of
every
course
one
not.
of your beliefs, if every one of your beliefs is also your political beliefs. Interesting.
So, you want to talk about the objectivity of color?
How long is this gonna take? What do you mean objective color? Skin color?
No, color. You were talking about like, what if your red is my green? Da 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 da.
Ah, okay. You know what? We'll end it off with that. Please go ahead with your stupid objectivity of stupid color.
Okay, so first off, let's talk about the concept of color. All right. There is a correlation between sensations, percepts, and concept formation, and there's also a correlation between existence, identity, and then consciousness. Right? There's a correlation there. Right. So the first axioms is existence, identity, and consciousness. Those are three axioms, and the only way to prove it is to prove it outside of those things. Right? If you wanted to prove existence, if I told you to prove existence, that means you would have to prove existence outside of existence, right? Which doesn't make any sense. And there is a correlation between sensation, perception, consciousness with those three things. So sensation doesn't tell you anything about the matter of existence, but only that it exists, right? So I can feel this laptop. I can sense that there is something here, but like our connection to sensations, to perceptions, is unvolitional, right? It's automatically turned into perceptions, right? So now when I touch this laptop, like I feel like it's somewhat metalish now, right? So that's like kind of well, that's not even a perception, right? I can me saying that it's already a concept, but I'm saying that like it feels a particular way now. So now if I put my hand off it, now I can remember how that feels, right? Now if I feel this, right, and I'll feel something else across my room, right, and then I can say, oh, they kind of feel the same, then or they're made out of the same material because they feel the same because they're made out of the same material. Then then I can build a concept of the thing called a metalish feeling, right? And then we can get this concept of a metalish feeling and call it metallic feeling. I don't know. Give it a word. I don't care. So that's derived from consciousness, right? So when it comes to concept formation, when it comes to concepts, you disregard degrees, standards, thresholds, and measurements, right? If we included measurements, degrees, and everything into that a concept, then me touching this laptop and it feels kind of metalish, right? It kind of feels like kind of metal, and then I touch this type of metal and be like, that's not the same metal. They have to be totally different. Like, no, they're the same. They're the same thing, right? We're just excluding degrees. So the degree or measurement from green to red, right, is totally irrelevant. What I'm saying is that you see what you see as a perception is color. This has a color, and this has a color, right? They might be two different colors in degree, right? But we can create the concept of color, right? Everything has a different reflection, right? And there's a reason for this, and the reason is irrelevant, but you can still create the concept of color, right? No matter if your red is my green and so on and so forth. That is the change in degree and measurement and thresholds, right? That's totally irrelevant. You still see a color, and I still see a color. Color is color.
But this color, if I teach a child that this red is called blue, you're right. That child would see the same red as me, right? And but that child would always call that blue. And in fact, can we even tell if humans see the same red? Like, have we ever made the technology to connect to the eyes to see?
Vosh, not Vosh. What's the guy that always pops up in the camera? He's like, "Hello,
Vsauce.
guy here." Vsauce, right? Vsauce actually made a video about that, explaining, is your red the same red as mine? I mean, like, I don't remember what the answer he gave, but there is a conclusion to this like answer, and I think scientists have already solved it or tried to at least attempt to solve it. But I mean, even if that was the case or was not the case, right? The point of the concept color is that you see a color and I see a color, no matter what the degree, measurement, threshold, or change of it is.
Okay, fair enough. You're right. And I will check out the video about Visas too. But if he did make a video clarifying that, then no, you're right. I'm gonna double check that, and I will. Then yeah, no, I will get back to you then. Okay. Well, thank you for coming today. You
Like always.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You are one of the most philosophically savage people I've met in my life, especially for your age. You're really the only thing I think you're missing, and I could be wrong about this because so far you've actually showed you are more practical. I just don't think you see that we can't achieve this. I think we could slowly get to it, but I think humans, especially now, are too lazy to ever would be willing to live in an objectivist world. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I'm not a pragmatist because pragmatism is inherently like immoral. So like, that's just the more thing. I think a lot of people, especially today, people argue too much economics and not morals first. And I think that's kind of one of the bigger problems.
Yeah, actually, the funny thing about the objectivist system is, in fact, even though you base it on morality, it's incredibly economically sound. It's going to revolutionize every technology we have, every money, it will create so much wealth that I know people can't even comprehend. This is something that a lot of people don't even understand. The only issue with it is it might cause too much change in the world, and people most people, the younger you are, the more willing. I mean, you've heard the term, the older you get, the more conservative you become. The younger you are, the more liberal you are. That's not even a political thing. It's based on psychology. And yeah, the younger you are, the more you're adaptable. You're willing to adjust to the world. But the older you get, you don't want the world to change so much. You know what I mean? That's actually my issue with the cryptocurrency thing. And people who think we have cryptocurrency and we can have crypto wallets by next year. I'm like, technically, yeah, you can have literal. Imagine this was a wallet. I could just go to a store and just use it. But it's too soon for that because we have way too many boomers that aren't ready for that. You know what I mean?
And I want to address you're talking about the practicality of like the objectivist philosophical position. The informal definition of objectivism is a philosophy to live on earth. So it's not necessarily a philosophy to how to like change the government, right? It's for you as an individual how to live on earth. And it starts of like knowing your rights, respecting other rights, and what John Galt says, living for living your life for the sake of you, not for others, and not forcing others to live for the sake of you. And so on and so forth. So it just teaches what are your rights and what is your moral purpose of an individual. And the whole point of it is to go around and experience the world, try to sense everything, which unvolitionally is going to turn into perceptions, and then turning your perceptions into concepts and make sure these concepts are as sound to reality as possible. Because if you create a concept out of thin air, right, without addressing reality, then it's anti-concept and anti-man, because you as an individual inherently already live off of concepts, right? So why would you just make a random concept? But the point is to live life, to go make more concepts and follow those concepts and principles to reality. And then you can live as a great individual, essentially.
Yeah, no, and I would love to read that book. I'm going to see, because I mean, you know about my family situation, so I'm really busy all the time because I gotta, take care of myself. But yeah, no, I definitely want to read that book as soon as possible. And you know what?
Which one?
The first book you sent me in terms of objective pipeline. What is the name of it?
So, firstly, virtual selflessness is going to teach you like why objectivism is the most moral thing. It's going to be like,
exactly. Let me just end this stream right now. Virtue of selfishness. In fact, I'm going to leave this pipeline of objectivism in the comments below. In the description below, there is a link to his Instagram. The NeoAustrian Instagram, not his personal one.
If you guys want my personal, it's Kudwy.
Okay, there you go. And also, you can definitely follow him. He'll actually join us again soon, so you'll see more of him. And as soon as he gets a chance, for TikTok, put the TikTok in the comments, and I'll highlight your comment. Okay.
Everything.
Just,
everything is at Kudwy.
I'll highlight. Yeah, just comment it. I'll highlight it right now. Okay, I'm gonna put this into the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. And oh yeah, I see it.